I'd like to, the Attorney General is here, General Garland, Javier, Mr. Secretary, you can come up too. I've been watching on television, you've been really good. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Secretary, I'm going to have you speak now. I want to thank the former general, I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. I want to make sure we thank the secretary. I want to thank all of our distinguished guests that are here today, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the secretary of the Secretary Austin, and the FEMA administrator who's become the MVP here these days. I spend a lot of time in this room. Griswold of FEMA and the entire workforce, and the chair of the FCC, Lena Khan, acting chair of the FTC. I got in trouble when we were running against the senator who was a Mormon, the governor, okay? You all remember last fall when Hurricane Ida made landfall, and he's running my operation now, and the former mayor of Louisiana, when it hit Louisiana. And the reason I asked Mitch to do this is because he knows how to get things done. I want every penny watched how this is spent. On police reform, I share the frustration. And I know the family well, George Family Justice Act, the Policing Act. I know the family well. Chairman Leahy, Leader McCarthy, Senator Casey, Congressman Scott, Congressman, where is he? There you are, Paul. Thanks to Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley and Earl, excuse me. I know. You can call me Biden. Joe Biden.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alan.
Half the women in my cabinet, more than half the people in my cabinet, more than half of the women in my administration are women.
And good Friday afternoon to all of you. This is News from the Pew, where we take the news from around the interwebs and distill it to make it slightly less frightening. I am your not really frozen host, but somewhat chilly host, Rick Barrett, and I'm joined, as always, by my amazing panel, Steve Cunningham from Sensus Fidelium and Spiritus TV. And our good friend Enoch, the Catholic rapper Fawaz Yazi, who just had a fantastic video last night about the top 5,000 rappers, and which is the best of all of them. Although I feel like, I think the results were a little skewed, but that's just a little white man in me talking about that. So I don't want to get into that one too much here, there, and anywhere. But gentlemen,
I thought it was fixed.
There was no Skilo, which Steve pointed out correctly.
No Vanilla Ice, no MC Hammer.
Right. That guy from Canada, the mixed master guy. That guy.
Snow wasn't on there.
Yeah. So
Informer.
We don't do pop artists. We're talking about straight rappers here.
Run DMC.
Well, he was on there. He was not at the first round.
Okay, I came in after the field of 190 was over.
Hold on a second. Enoch's whole thing was messed up because they pit Biggie and Tupac in the first round.
That was
the most ridiculous.
Well, that's because the guy from Kentucky put North Carolina and Duke in the first round to knock off each other so that they could play one of them instead of having both.
Still ridiculous.
I took Biggie over Pac, by the way. Which was
the correct call.
Yeah.
It was the correct call. Anyway, for all of you, before you check out, let's actually get to let's not go off the rails as some other shows like to talk about, but let's get to our first story. And apparently there is somebody from wish.com ordered a balloon and it's being flown over in the slowest way possible. But if you haven't heard, there is literally a balloon from China flying over Montana at some point. And Yeah, it was
that?
discovered, I believe, yesterday. And even Joey B
What
was like,
planet
hey,
is
let's
that?
shoot this thing down. And nobody wanted to because of apparent debris that was going to hit Billings, Montana, which is the first time anybody's ever been concerned about anything in Montana on the ground. I mean, they were scrambling F-22 Raptors over this thing. They've tracked it. It's
What
going to
planet
go
is that?
over Kansas, Tennessee, all the way. I think it's actually targeting Steve because the end result is supposed to go over North Carolina and over Enoch. So luckily,
What's that?
they're not going to target us, but we'll see. I don't know,
What
Steve. Are you
planet is that?
prepped for the weather balloon event or the Chinese spyware event coming to your house?
I had zero clue about this until about 2 hours ago, I guess. But it is telling that it's at the right height for an EMP, which I've been watching that for probably about 15 years, 10, 15 years. And was it Montana has what the biggest silo for nuke weapons right in that area, wherever
It's like 150.
Yeah, wherever they're at. And you see everyone going, they're spying on us. Wait a minute. China has satellites all over the dark space out there. They don't need a balloon. I have no idea what in the wide world of sports is going on. And here's one of the guys who has a suit on, so he knows more than I.
Thank you, Pat. You said
Oh,
that
look at all
this
those
is
medals.
violating our airspace, so why not take it down?
Yeah, so clearly as we assess options and considering the size of the payload on this, looking at the potential for debris and the impact on civilians on the ground or property damage, again, running through the various factors and looking at in terms of does it pose a potential risk to people while in the air. And right now, as I mentioned, we assess that it does not pose a risk to people on the ground as it currently is traversing the continental United States. And so out of an abundance of caution, cognizant of the potential impact to civilians on the ground from a debris field, right now we're going to continue to monitor and review options.
Now, if I was a smart man and knew about this beforehand, I would have done all y'all a favor and filmed me floating a balloon outside the window right now. Those little helium ones, you like when you're a kid, you're like, hey, tie up a little note, let it go. I mean, there's got to be a spoof video right now or somebody like Airplane, when he unplugs it, goes, just whoops, I let the balloon go. And some kids over there crying in China right now, where's my balloon? And over here, everyone's losing their minds.
Well, it would be like that. So Fawaz, it's pretty funny that everybody is freaking out about this balloon. As Steve said, it could be an EMP, it could be dropping, diseases, it could be doing all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, here in the United States, you just heard the guy with all the shiny metal say everything's okay. I thought this was America, Fawaz. Why can't we just blow this thing up?
Well, for number one, I thought this was America. I thought you could have seen this coming before it even got this close, and then you could have blown it up. If it came from all the way over there, you could have blown this thing up way before it got to Montana. I mean, that's. But here's my thing. Number one, do we know it's from China? Because does this administration have a habit of lying to us? Yes. Number two, if it's just sitting here's my thing though. Forgive me for being a what is it? Forgive me for being cautious for a moment, but between TikTok and Swalwell, I thought the Chinese already have all the data they want from us to begin with, and Fang. So what is this satellite going to do for them, and why Montana? I don't know. I think we'll probably, I have my brain works a certain way. I always say, wait a few days for the actual truth to come out versus what they're telling us, because the truth has a way of finding itself, presenting itself, and it was the same thing with when we had the whole the problem with the pandemic. Is it took a while, but a lot of the conspiracy theorists ended up being right, and all those who are pushing the what I call the coincidence theorists are we're wrong. So right now, the best thing we can do is make more memes, laugh about it. And I saw Trump saying, let's blow this thing up right now. And jokingly, what I said was I tweeted back and I said, we have to wait for Zelensky's orders before we blow this up, since we know who's really running this country. So I don't know what this thing's about. It could be EMP, I guess that's what you say, which could pretty much destroy all the electrical grid of the United States. If that's the case, then this thing was coming right before it got here, so you could have gotten rid of it. Does it contain certain things that, if it does come down, that it could cause another? Is there some viruses that it could cause? So
just all the Chinese asbestos.
All the Chinese asbestos, yeah. I mean, this thing's made in China. It can't last that long up there. I mean, it probably it'll start coming down eventually, probably the next 24 hours. So yeah, I don't
This is
know.
Actually, a restaurant in LA is just sending some guy in Montana some Chinese food. This is just the way he's doing it.
It's the new It's the new drone delivery.
It is. Yeah, it's especially coming from China. It's perfect. Why Montana? If we could blow this up, let's do it on
Jet
one
stream.
of the. Well, we could use one of the many lands that Bill Gates has that he's bought in this country, so he can make modified food for us.
The only reason I brought up the EMP thing is I know like Beck and those guys who make tons of money off fear are talking about that. The exact height. One, I mean, really don't know what the height is for that balloon right now. Two, that would destroy the globalist plans. If these digital currencies coming in, digital IDs coming in, digital everything under the sun's coming in. So if you take an EMP, guess what? All that is gone. It was actually work in our favor. If that it would bring society into an exponentially better place if that would happen. There's no way that's going to happen. I thought this was a great meme right here. As the United States spends roughly $800 billion on national defense each year. Someone please explain how a Chinese spy balloon was able to float into our airspace without early detection, as Fawaz brought that up, or interception of any branch of our military. This was a cool one. Since the balloon is trending, in 1945, the crew of the USS New York spotted a spear that was thought to be a Japanese balloon weapon. The captain ordered it shot down, but none of the guns could hit it. Finally, the navigator realized they were attacking Venus.
Well,
yep,
that's a good
baby.
Well, hey, Venus hasn't messed with us since, so that's actually really great. So.
Show them.
I will give a Catholic message to this. I will say this. If you look up and you see this balloon thing, just remember, and this is kind of cheesy, but I will go cheesy. Just remember that almost 100,000 people looked up, saw the sun dance, and Our Lady was there. So if anything, it should remind us of our faith, and it should we should get on our knees and ask Our Lady for her intercession for our country and for the world. If you want a Catholic message to it, look up, and then we should see Our Lady there. So
I like that.
In my conspiratorial view, I'm going to say 46 U.S. military biolabs in Ukraine. Pfizer scientists caught lying or mutating viruses on video for profit. Hunter Biden laptop. Pfizer admits 40 million women had menstrual problems and it caused infertility. Bring out the balloon.
Yeah.
Also, people are asking how to get here. People haven't been following the fact that the Chinese and the Canadians have been working pretty closely together. So I would not put it past them to launch this thing from Vancouver. So I don't think this thing floated across the ocean. I think this thing was fired up across on the Canadian border. And the Canadians have no problem with it because they've been doing joint military exercises with the Chi-Coms for a while. So
the population is huge in Vancouver.
Yeah, so
it might not have floated across the globe. It might just came out.
Yeah, I think it actually came from Canada, and
it's traveled literally 20 miles so far, and everyone's going crazy.
Yeah. And as Fawaz pointed out, everybody's got mini Chinese spy satellites on their phone. So I don't know why everybody's freaking out about the giant balloon up in the air when they're. And the crazy thing is, everybody posted it to TikTok. Everybody posted about
self-owned.
But seriously, all the other stuff going on, everyone's focused on this.
Yep.
Every time something happens, you see something like this.
Red
Yeah,
flags,
it's almost like it's planned, Steve. It's almost
Almost.
like it's planned. Speaking of which, there was a kerfuffle yesterday because Elon Omar was removed from committees. And of course, the squad, because they hadn't gotten any attention in about 15 minutes, they all decided to respond to this. And I don't think I can describe it. I think Steve just needs to play the clips.
To Congress to be silent. I came to Congress to be their voice. And my leadership and voice will not be diminished.
Is that a picture of her?
If I am not on this committee for one term. My voice will get louder and stronger, and my leadership will be celebrated around the world as it has been. So take your vote or not. I am here to stay, and I am here to be a voice against harms around the world and advocate for a better world.
Me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology.
Time has expired.
When my life was threatened. Thank you.
The whole video of her losing her mind is actually pretty funny because she gets very animated. We haven't seen Preacher AOC in a while, so it was good to see her come back, and it was nice to see. But Flaws, it's not like she's actually getting kicked out of Congress. She's still there. She's just not on any committees.
Man, these kabuki theaters, all they are is just to get their base and they get some camera time. Nobody knows how to work the camera like Cortez. Remember that one time she found the camera, went up and started crying, crocodile tears, because you know exactly where the camera was. All of the even with the Republicans, these Senate hearings, it's just your score political points. Nothing changes. At the end of the day, she's been kicked out of the committee, and so. In all of reality, she can sit there and say whatever she wants. She lost in that sense, but it's just a part for them to continue playing this theater, to get their base riled up, to get more TV time, so that they can, the more TV time they get, the more their reelection chances are and all that stuff. But I will say this: I said this yesterday with the AOC's part. If you watch that video on mute and play some Matt Maher music, it looks like evening session at a Steubenville conference. Okay. That's what it looks like to me. A Saturday night evening session, keynote speaker at a Steubenville conference. So kudos to AOC, the next speaker at the Steubenville conference.
Hey, everybody's got to have their gigs lined up, man. Everybody's got to have their gigs lined up, and that's all that really matters in that regard. So it's pretty interesting to see the reaction, because this happened. Marjorie Taylor Greene was stripped of her assignments and all this other kind of stuff. And like Steve was saying, there's all this other stuff that came out over the past couple of days about a bunch of other things. And what are we talking about? We're talking about balloons, and we're talking about AOC.
We're talking about practice.
We're talking about all kinds of foolishness. So
this is not foolishness. I just got I was just emailed a video of the live shoot down. They did shoot down the balloon.
They did.
This is on a great line.
Man, that's a heck of a golf play. I mean, that thing hangs there for a while. That's nice.
You heard it here first. The balloon has been shot down by a Titleist one.
It was the greatest hit in the history of the world. I took care of this bastard, just like Joe wouldn't do it, but I did. So it's all good. You're welcome, America.
So
yeah, how about, and going back to him, how about Lindsey Graham is now BFFs with Trumpzilla?
Of course he is. They all are. I mean, they're all buddies. They're all friends. And it's we make the joke all the time. It's professional wrestling. That's all it is. They got the heels and got faces, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. If you're a Republican, your faces, which are the good guys, the Lindsey Graham and Dan Crenshaw and all these people. And if you're on the Democratic side, your faces are Elian and all these people are crying. That's all it is. And it doesn't mean anything. And anybody who gives anything more than lip service to politics at this point, it's just a hobby. You can't,
Speaking of good guys, Jordan Peterson, quote unquote good guy, all of a sudden gets on Daily Wire, now he wants regime change.
Yeah, well, I think he had to sign those. We talk about Crowder contracts. I think that's part of the Daily Wire contract. You must support Israel and you must support regime change. That's pretty much within the actual boundaries of it. So it's very interesting in that regard. But
the stuff in DC is just like you said, theater stuff. I mean, here, Dan, you tell him. I'm gonna smack my notebook down. Hey, it's sure. At least the guys in England doing much better. I don't know if you guys watched England going at the Parliament out there. That's popcorn worthy. Those guys go to town on each other. That's great. Like Enoch said, you turn on AOC without the voice or audio. I thought she was having a seizure at first. I didn't know what was going on. I saw that all over Facebook, Twitter. What is she yelling about? Only thing that would have been better would have been if your boy would have shown up.
That's why I'm still marching. Yeah. Yes, I got books out. Yes, I got a TV show, but I'm a mountain climber. I'm not going to stop till I get to the top of the mountain.
By the way, he's doing a eulogy for was it Tyre that got killed by the cops? Yeah. He's talking about himself.
You can call me names on right-wing television.
The fact that Sharpton is still walking around with the amount of taxes he owes is ridiculous.
He looks like a dead man walking.
I'm a mountain climber.
He's a mountain climber.
Now, we all remember what you look like before you got the surgery, buddy. You ain't climbing nothing but a buffet. We all remember Fat Al Sharpton, and then one day he just showed up all skinny. So we all remember what that was, bud. You ain't climbing no mountains in that regard. But the whole Tyree Evans thing happened in case you missed it. Last Friday, there was a video released in Memphis, Tennessee, where 5 black police officers, which looked like a gangland maneuver, hunted down a guy and beat him essentially to death. Now, as people like Jason Whitlock have pointed out, it happened in a city that's 65% black, with the last 4 police chiefs all being of black ancestry or just being black. And this kind of just died out real quick.
Very quick.
Because it just flamed out because people, of course, now they're reporting that he was sleeping with one of the cops. Nobody even cares. But having lived in Memphis for a summer, I can tell you it's probably, I don't say this with any kind of means, it's probably the trashiest place on earth. The only way to go through Memphis is at 90 miles an hour and not stopping, because it's absolutely trash. And it doesn't shock me the dichotomy we see now, or the difference between city life and just rural or suburban life. But it was another distraction, Steve. It was another way to just kind of, everybody was worried about these, a Rodney King 2.0 flaws and people getting all hopped up. But in the end, there was nothing flaws. Did you see the video? Did you hear anything about that?
I did, yeah. I got a couple things to say about that, if you guys don't mind. Number one, yeah, we didn't see the amount of peaceful protests, if I could say that, from the gang mentality, being Antifa and a lot of the BLM folks. We didn't see that in the level that we saw with George Floyd. And the reason we didn't is because I think in the heart of hearts of people, and at the end of it all, no matter how evil people want to be, they're still people. They still have emotions, and they still work under a certain, they were hardwired a certain way. So you can lie to yourself all day. I mean, you can lie to us all day long, but you can't lie to yourself. People knew deep down this was not an act of racism. But I saw this, I don't know her name. She was on the British guy, I forgot his name. And Zuby was on there too. He's a conservative black rapper. And she tried to make the claim that this was internalized racism. So when it used to be that anybody could be racist, if you're Asian, if you're black, whatever, anybody could be a racist. But then they said, no, that's not true because racism has to do with systemic. Those who are in power only can be racist. Then when you have 5 black cops beat up a black person and kill him, unfortunately, and we pray for his soul. Let's not forget here that we can't become like the left. We can't become monsters like them. This person has a soul, and this person has passed away, and hope that God had mercy on him. We can't forget that. So what I was trying to say here is, now she says black folks can internalize racism, but if 65% of the force was black, the chief was black, the city, and about the mayor. But I will say this: this had nothing to do with racism, and we know this. This has everything to do with the fact that 2 or 3 out of the 5 black cops were hired because of their skin color and not because of what they're capable of doing. And this is the problem that we've seen with this whole inclusiveness when it comes to hiring people. It had nothing to do with, they can't do their job, but they're hired. And it's the same thing. What's her name? The press secretary, Carrie Jean-Pierre. She's horrible at her job, but only reason she's on there is because she fits a certain description. And it's all, so to the left, there is no such thing as racism. Everything is inclusive except for one thing: thought. That's the only thing you cannot have. That you cannot have an opinion on. You can be black and have a certain thought process or a certain mentality or a certain ideology that is not part of that's not part of the agenda. Then they'll call you a racist. They'll call you whitewash. They'll call you Uncle Tom, because to them, racism doesn't exist except for the fact it's controlling thought. You have to think a certain way in order for you to be black. You have to think a certain way in order for you to be a white person. That's okay with us. You have to think a certain way. So to these folks, racism is not about color. It's about thought process. Are you towing the line of the agenda, of the communist agenda? If you are, you're in good standing. If you're not, it doesn't matter what color you are. We will call you a racist, and we'll call you internalized racism. How do you internalize racism? How do you even know what to look for? You're looking for a ghost of a ghost, a subconscious racism. It makes no sense whatsoever. People just make up words just so they can push these labels on people that there's nothing there. So that's my thought on this.
So, Steve, I'm pretty sure CNN has a very thoughtful, calm response to this whole thing.
It was. And just to let everybody know, I was born a poor black child.
Caucus has called for a meeting with President Biden in the wake of Tyre Nichols'
Y'all did get that. It's from The Jerk, right? The movie?
beating death. Yes. Is that going to happen? Do you see Joe Biden as leading on this issue?
It's absolutely going to happen, and Joe Biden needs to be the leader on this issue.
What is the guy from
New York? Do you see him as a leader now?
No. We need him to provide historic leadership in this moment. And when I say historic, I'm talking Roosevelt and Lincoln type historic leadership on this issue and so many others. We cannot just paint around the edges, because that maintains a status quo. We have to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. We have to introduce and pass the People's Justice Guarantee so community members can reimagine and restructure public safety in our country. The research shows we need a public health approach to public safety. You want to make us safer? Invest in poverty and ending poverty, invest in housing, invest in climate, invest in education. That is how we make our country safer. What we're doing is adding more police and feeding the prison industrial complex, and that has to stop.
I have no idea what that guy was ranting about. I heard climate change is going to be the way to, stop the violence. Who knew that your
It's
CO2
all just
that
more
you
money.
breathe-
More money on
technically, yeah. If you all stop breathing and we get down to net zero, which means we all die, there'll be no more violence. So he has a point there. We may not like the way he's going about it, but he has a point. If we all just drop dead, there'll be no more violence. Don't forget that the whole thing, this whole Memphis cop thing, they had to decrease the requirements to get the job. And this, not just there, many other places are going through the same thing.
I was about to say, Steve, that we've been seeing this in cities for probably the last 5 to 7 years. There was the issue here in Dallas a couple years ago with that little blonde cop who shot the black guy when she walked into his apartment and she lit him up. That lady had no business being a police officer, but Dallas is so desperate to put people in uniform that at this point, it's kind of like if you show up and you have a pulse, you're gonna be a police officer because they just need to fill these quotas, and it doesn't hurt if you're a female or if you're a POC or if you're a woman POC, then you're going straight to the front of the line, and these places. And this guy all he wants to do is sandwich more stuff on top of stuff that already exists.
Yeah,
we need to
more
pass
money,
this
more
act.
big
We need to
government.
pass that act. We need to pass this. Just layer and layer and layer and layer and layer. Nothing gets enforced. Nothing gets done. It's just a nice way of saying we did something. And they can put that on their resume when they run for re-election.
Because you want to fix education? Great. Get rid of the Department of Education. Doesn't belong in the government anyway. Get rid of it. That would improve education exponentially.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Forget about the climate change stupid thing. All right, the police, the incarceration center thing. All right, I get it. Everyone and their brother understands that. Okay, let's stop. Maybe all right, and not push it. This isn't an application for let's get everyone high. But how about we stop having the SWAT come over for a guy with a joint and maybe get some other things that are going on? I remember when I played ball back in Cowpens, this Cowpens, South Carolina, there was drug dealers going on all day long, and the cops would get you if you went 26 and a 25. And my mom got pulled over 1 a.m. in the morning coming back from taking us to a North Carolina versus South Carolina game in Charlotte for doing 28 and a 25. But I could go up there and get guns pulled on me all day long while kids are playing ball. Nobody, where are the cops at? Yes, we got to stop the militarization of the cops. You saw the videos of the cops coming in. Where was it? Was it Memphis? In Atlanta? These guys are coming in tanks. Talk about Abrams tanks going out to Ukraine. A lot of them, half of them, got allocated down to Atlanta. You don't know if it's the SWAT, if you don't know if it's SEAL Team 6 or your local PD coming in anymore. And why is it? How come you look at all the chief of PDs? They're all black women. You look at the sheriff. It doesn't matter what race, what color. You got strong men in place. Why they're voted on. Outside with the PDs, they get to be elected because they're looking for the social justice aspect of it. Do you check off, like Frost was talking about, you check off all the boxes? Are you are you a tranny? Yes. Hey, they're going to run for office. Are you this? Are you this? You're going to this. Hey, let's put him in as the chief of police. That way, like I said, they're bringing in racism. This is all racist. This is all racist. Every player in this, I think the mayor is black. Everybody in it is black. There's no way this is a racist thing. And then this is talking about just bad cops. This is just terrible cops right there. You got to get better. I remember one cop saying, "Hey, and I'm all for the police. You got to get out of the whole idea of just sitting behind the car and like these guys do maybe, and play on the laptop or whatever. Run the beat, walk the beat like you did of old, so everybody knows who you are, see who you are, get to know the community, get to know the neighborhood. So they got your back, and they know you got theirs. Instead of these guys who just got a power trip beyond power tripping, beat the what out of this guy. They called it a Rodney King Part 2 type deal, and then you see them take the cameras off, spray, face spray, shoot themselves. Make their eyes water, all this, and then tell them, oh, yeah, this guy tried taking the gun from us. This guy did this. The guy is 140 pounds, And they're acting like this guy turned into the Incredible Hulk and went all berserker rage on them while they're just pounding him into the ground. I mean, for the riots that came out, you knew it was coming because it was all planned out. We got, all right, we're activating these guys, we're going to do this. But as for what I was brought up, they Peter-pattered after a day. I mean, you got the guys out there, they were blocking traffic in Memphis. You got, hey, man, the truckers going, hey, man, can we just, I need to get to work. I don't know. It takes more tolerance of those guys for not hitting the gas. Say, you know what? You get out of the way. This is a 18-ton semi. Move. I'm honking once. You're going to move out of the way. I guarantee those guys move out of the way when the gas goes. I'm not dying for. It's just like the whole idea. What, you guys really going to die for this cause? No. People die for causes they're into, like the South. You're going to defend your homeland. The Vendée, you're going to defend your homeland. The Cristeros, you don't get the paid subscription model to come out. So you know what? I'm going to stand there and get hit by this 18-wheeler. That ain't happening. No. Oh, give me the gate key. What gate key? Oh, rip his arms off. Oh, this gate key. You can have the gate key for that one.
You know, it's interesting as society continues to fall away from Christendom. Let's just call it as it is. As we have moved, even the fact that, you know, I'm not pining for Mayberry and all this stuff in the 50s, but there was at least an idea of it in culture and in society. And as we've moved away from that and we promoted a more secular worldview, we promoted more of a degradation of the family, single mama culture, emasculated men. The only place that in a city landscape where you can find masculine men, supposedly, or where they can find healthy expressions of it, is within gang culture. And whether that's in police departments or that's on the street or wherever the case may be. Yeah. And so, of course, we're going to continue to see that. And the only cure for this is, and it doesn't matter what color you are, you need to reestablish the family in the home, the correct order, fathers as the head, mothers staying home, taking care of their children. I think Jason Willock has the best. Parents are your first level of law enforcement. They need to be that level of law enforcement, not putting this all on teachers or on the public sector, teachers, police, whatever the case may be. And because as we have seen in every major city and even anywhere else, that the public square, your public services are not equipped to do this. It is the family, and the family takes its direction from the church. That's the only solution to any of this. And you can propose a gazillion laws. None of it's going to work because without a moral base, none of this stuff has any way, shape, or form of really having any kind of hold. And so that's the sad thing about all this, is when you see this falling away, is it's all a direct result of us turning away from God. That's really all it is in that way, shape, or form. And so it's sad. More of these things will take place as people continue to fall away and dive further into secular culture.
You brought up culture. What are we doing as a church? What are we doing as a Catholic community? Doing anything? Are we trying to evangelize the Baptists? Are we trying to evangelize the black churches? Are we trying to evangelize these people too? Just instead of just come in and hearing good music or hearing Al with, hearing an organ in the background. Woo, hallelujah. What are we doing to change it? It's like the Garanger writes about the revolution. These guys are trying to fix the revolution from the French Revolution and Luther's revolution. And the revolution's all the way back to the beginning. But what are we doing about it? We sit there going, Jesse Romero used to give out the St. Michael cards or medals out to his area when he was a cop. That's a great idea for cops. That was a great idea for others like us, that we could evangelize the neighborhood. And if you get a Catholic neighborhood, maybe you don't have stuff like this going on, because it's not like the cops, just like the politicians with Carlin. They just don't come from some wormhole. They come from your families. They come from your schools. They come from your society. They come from everywhere. So what are we doing about it? Are we just griping on Twitter? Are we just like everything else? Are we trying to be better ourselves, to be better, convert ourselves to convert others?
Fwaz, what else you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you guys, what you guys said was masterful. I just wanted to piggyback on this. I remember back in the early 90s, when the reason why hip hop culture became so prevalent is because, first of all, it was hated by the politicians, absolutely hated. In the early 80s and the early 90s, they tried to get rid of it, but they decided they could profit from it. And what they did was, a lot of these folks, they had these foreign investors invest in private prisons, and they made hip hop in the inner cities and the Black community, they were just so connected. They decided to put, because before then, rap wasn't so much violent in the early 80s. It was, you had your conscious rap with KRS-One. You had those guys. And you had more of poetry, but then in the early 90s, it became so violent. And the reason they did this on purpose, they try to make violence and gang-related stuff so appealing to young men. And at the same time, when you strip the fathers away, because they've done that from the 60s and on, they stripped the fathers away. They made these young people appeal to violence. They filled up those private prisons. Stock went way up, and these guys made so much money off of exploiting these inner cities and these poor folks. And the same people that put these laws into place are the same ones now kneeling, 3 years ago, acting like they care about these folks when in reality they don't. When we know this, so I'm gonna criticize, and I'm gonna go off what Steve said. And this might be controversial. I'm gonna criticize, where was the Catholic Church when the Black community needed them at that time? Guess who came in? The Baptist sect came in, and they became the rock and the foundation. Where was the traditional Latin Mass? Why don't we see traditional Latin Masses? Every time I go to traditional Latin Mass in the cities, it's always in the ghetto. It's always in the Hispanic ghetto. We embrace the Hispanics, but for some reason, the churches had no interest at that time of evangelizing, because we know for a fact, if the church would have gone in there and done what it was supposed to do, it would have emphasized family, virtue, and men. And then that way, the government would not have come in and influenced the family in such a way. So we have a long battle ahead of us when it comes to that.
Well, yeah, the church abdicated its responsibility, and that vacuum had to be filled by something.
Yep.
And so, whatever you want to say, government, Protestant sects, they filled that void, and we see that everywhere. But the Catholic Church retreats, something fills it, and it never results in a net positive.
Yeah,
ever.
Good point.
And what was that? What was that document that came out in the 60s? Was it
Fruity Loops, Fruity Tooty? No,
it was the one that basically destroyed the Black family. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. The something project or the something.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'll look it up when someone else was talking, but I can't think of the name of it. Was it LBJ came out with it, or I can't remember.
It was brought to LBJ, and he shut it down.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
he shut it down because it was this idea about where you need to reassert the Black man as the head of the family, and they need to be promoted. And LBJ and Democrats were in no way, shape, or form interested in that.
They had an agenda. Yeah.
As Fwaz pointed out, they saw an opportunity. The opening was there, and nobody was there to thwart them. And so,
I mean, Michael Jones talks about that in Destruction of the Cities. I think that's the name of the book.
Oh, yeah.
How you bring up like a family in Alabama and stick them in the middle of Detroit. It's told two different cultures, no matter what race you are, two different cultures. And then you stick them in the middle of that, and you try to gentrify everything, and then you just screw up the Polish people or the German people or the Italian people that's up there, and you throw everyone in the middle to cause havoc. It's almost like a controlled demolition in a sense. It's like that with the that's a hot topic. Segregating the schools instead of keeping them desegregating, instead of keeping them segregated, where everyone and their brother knows that everybody thrives in that sense. You put everybody together, you light a match, and you watch it burn. So that was the whole idea. That was not to, hey, let's do it because of good feelings. We're going to do a Care Bear stare. No, they wanted to burn things down by doing all this. Throw everybody in, light a match. It's like the whole Batman thing. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yep. That's 100% correct in that regard. And people, and the crazy thing is, here's a great example of what Steve just said. The Arkansas 5. Everybody remembers that. That was a big deal because it was the first school that was desegregated, and they had to bring in the military to help these black kids go to the school there. If you go to that school today, I think it's 60% white, 40% black. I'm sorry, 40% white, 60% black. They still self-segregate in that school. White kids hang out with the white kids, the black kids hang out with the black kids. And it's natural. And of course, there's always cross-pollination, obviously. But people tend to stay. That's why the term ghetto is actually not technically a pejorative, because in the 20s and 1910, 1920s, late 1800s, you went to your Italian ghetto, you went to your Irish ghetto, you went to your whatever ghetto when you came off the boat. Chinatown is essentially the modern day version of what you would do. You would come off the boat, you would go straight to your part of town, and they would welcome you and say, all right, this is, you're going to stay with this person. We're going to get you a job at this factory. And that's how it used to be in that regard, until the forced interaction with other groups. And of course that absolutely takes place. Everybody does interact at some point, but it's not natural. It's not done in a natural way. It's forced, and it never works. Yeah. So now that we put a pin in that one,
Whitlock has a great one on that, about 4 minutes long, on the matriarchy, and look at like Wakanda Forever, and
absolutely.
How those movies, you look at how many movies are getting rid of the father, getting rid of the dad, getting rid of a strong dad, and it's all about the mom. It's all about the mother raising the kid, the single mother everywhere, mother, no more fathers. It's just inverting everything that you
really want mind bending. It wasn't even that. It's been Disney. How long has Disney in their movies been, knocking off the parents?
Yeah,
how many movies, right, where the parents get knocked off some way, shape, or form real early in the story, and it's up to that scrappy young child to figure things out for themselves.
And now today you got was it Minnesota that voted for the ability to kill a baby, literally to ensure about it. And you got this
ban abortion or are likely to do so. Without Roe, Americans are now facing a confusing patchwork of state laws, dictating who can make decisions about their health care and when. Without Roe, state governments are forcing pregnancy on people. Maternal and infant health care outcomes are worsening, and it's harder for people to access medications to treat arthritis, cancer, lupus, and more, all because they could also be used for medication.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense.
Forcing pregnancies on people. Yes, that's what happened. Big Daddy's coming down and basically raping people.
Yeah. Of course, that's another place where the Catholic Church has abdicated its authority in the realm of sexual morality. Take it for however you want to interpret that, because we got too scared because we were called Puritans, and in the face of the sexual revolution, we just absolutely got overwhelmed. And it's been nothing but a downhill, just head first ever since. Yeah. And now we're seeing the fact that you have women standing in the halls of the Capitol arguing that we need to have a federal law applied to all 50 independent states that tells everybody, listen, you got to murder your kid for XYZ reasons. This is an actual conversation that's taking place in the so-called civilized society.
They'll get it.
Tells you that it's not civilized.
By the end of the decade, they'll have it at all 50 states. I promise you, that's going to happen.
Oh, Lindsey Graham set it up. Remember that. He put that out there. Republican side.
You're going to be eating bugs. You're not going to have any power unless you take, roll up your sleeves. You're not going to be able to drive vehicles. I mean, we got that story. They're going to be forcing you to kill your kids, and they're going to be doing all that. I mean,
what was it?
There's no accident this is all coming out. Again, like we said last week, there's no accident that all this stuff is happening all at the same time on every country in the world. Right. It's all planned out.
when did Our Lady appear to? I think it was a Jacinta that said, I think it was 1929. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1929 was when Our Lady said, if you asked Russia to consecrate, and was it Lucia? So if that's the case, 1929. We all saw what happened with the
29 is right.
Yeah, so 1929. So 100 years later, it's the same thing that happened with the French Revolution, and so 1929. So 2029, 2030 is when these guys are looking to do their thing. So clearly, we're getting 100 years after an apparition, just like what we saw with the French Revolution. We're getting what we deserved after 100 years.
Yeah, buckle up.
Yeah, so
it's going to get fun.
It is. God has decreed this from the very beginning of time. Just to give somebody just kind of hope here. God has decreed this from the beginning of time. God is not a day-to-day. He can't change his mind. He's outside of time. He's all-knowing. So he looked at a universe where it's possible that as many souls can be saved as possible. He picked that universe, cooperating with the will of man and the grace of God, because we can't be double predestination folks over here. So God has decreed this from the very beginning of time, and ever since Christ died on the cross and resurrected, the last 2,000 years has been a cleanup job, a mop-up job to get things going before he comes back. So the fact that he's decreed this at the beginning of time, and the fact that he's chosen you, chosen me, and chosen all of us to be a part of this, it means that our duty is to suffer well and to become saints, and our prayer should be joined with the prayer that God has allowed from the beginning of time, decreed from the beginning of time. So my thing is learn how to suffer well, because if you don't, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You had all these people, remember back in when things were great in 2019, according to some people, people were writing about the chastisement is coming. Just get ready, the 3 days of darkness. It was nice and comfortable when you were writing it on an article or on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram. But when it came right to your door, those same people started complaining, I want 2019 back. It's like you were just telling everybody how to get ready for the chastisement. And as soon as it came to your front door, now you want 2019 back. Suffer well. That's the only thing we can do at this point.
Yeah, that's really.
You got to practice at it.
Yeah.
You got to practice now, because when it gets better and when it gets worse, and it will, it goes back to my idea of most people that are in the trad world never played ball or in the military, because how many you see right now that just a little thing setting them right off. People are losing their minds right now. When this thing really gets bad, that's what we all got to start focusing on ourselves, not as being selfish, but where can become the best thing you can be, because when it gets worse, you're going to need it. Because these guys right now, they're not going to be able to pull it off. If, say, for example, in a couple months, Rome comes down and takes out the TLM at diocese level, how many people are going to lose their utter minds? I would say the vast majority. You see that. I see that in my people here. A priest gave a sermon saying, hey, at the TLMers, you're not as holy as the guys that go to the Novus Ordo. And he's right. Those guys left to go to another parish or the society one. You're talking about weak, thin-skinned to do that. A truth was said instead of being a challenge. We didn't say we put down the challenge. Talk about men. We're not men. We got
Steve,
mad.
what makes them
mad. We tweet about it. We yell about each other, or we look up Garen Bendall. We got people right now looking up fake apparitions just because Putin and France is mad. I'm looking at going, you got to be kidding me. The answer is easy. We just become holy, become saints. We stop complaining. We embrace the cross, embrace the suck. And it's really easy. Get some more calluses on your knees instead of the calluses on your fingers. These guys will get upset, and then let's tweet about it. Or complain about an interview. We're going to complain about an interview for 30 days. Instead of actually talking about it, we're going to ad hominem, we're going to condemn others. We're going to, you know what St. Paul wrote in those epistles? Forget that. We're just going to trash those guys. And we're going to call out others that speak against them because we didn't get our way. We need a serious makeover before all this happens.
I think it's funny, and this may get me in trouble with everybody listening, but hey, might as well. Those people who left their trad parish because the priest said something that they didn't like, you're no different than the Protestants who jump from one church to another because they're searching for that high feeling.
I can top that. Where were y'all at during the Rona?
Yeah.
You're gonna get upset at a priest for saying that. But during the times when there was not just the shutdown, but men making him wear a muzzle, maybe I remember having, a holy sanitizer on me during communion. Where was that? Where were y'all during that? Silence.
Yeah,
indeed. You got a little. Indeed. Someone got a little touch you a little bit too close to the chest. Now you got all weak kneed, and I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Yeah, the problem is that a lot of people are very set in their ways, and believe me, I love going to the Latin Mass. Let me tell you this: the Latin Mass that I went to, just so I can get my qualifications out there for y'all, so you all don't get mad at me. At the Latin Mass I was at, my priest actually gave us a really good homily on St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, and he said, "Listen, we look at this letter." And we say, how could those Corinthians get into such a state where they were yelling at each other and they were so divided and man, shame on them. Finger, waving. And he goes, how much different are we today than the guys there? How can we look at St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians and from a stand back, we're better point of view instead of taking the lessons from this letter and trying to apply it to our lives. So I know people are probably going to light me up, and that's okay. Go ahead.
They'll know you by the way they love each other. Look how they love each other. And then look on Twitter and see how much we love each other. Ain't no love on there at all.
No.
And someone wrote about not going to stay at an NO parish. I got one 6-7 minutes away. Very tolerable. I have no problem going to it. Anybody wanted to take my trad card? No. They do everything there's some trad parishes, Novus Ordo parishes, that does the Latin Novus Ordo, that I would guarantee most people that go to a TLM wouldn't have a clue what the difference between the two. And that's just because we're not we want what we want. We don't want what God wants. Like the guy that they're going after right now, he had a great line. If God can tolerate this, why can't we? Are we better than God? I mean, was it was it Garanjay that wrote that on Septuagesima? No one reads Garanjay. We'll read Lifeside News about Garin Bedell. We don't read Garanjay. You know who you are when you do that. If you're one of those that get upset about things like that, and you're spending most time, and be brutally honest, looking at blogs, getting your ears tickled, rather than reading Lives of the Saints or reading this or reading that, becoming better and being educated and being able to maybe evangelize more, invite people to Mass, and be joyful even when it sucks. You know who you are. Just do it. Just try one at a time to switch it up. Trinity Brewery did a great job today about silencing all those verses that are going out on Twitter world that is stirring up things like bogus Oreo or bogus Ordo. It's just mind-blowingly stupid stuff. But it's still those things that those guys are poking at and causing people to get mad. And you don't, by their fruits you shall know them.
No. And I think Enoch, you brought up a great point earlier, and it's really American narcissism to think that we know better than what the all knowing, all powerful, all everything can't even fathom what God has knowledge of and what He has decreed. And so you're trying to fight it, right, my man?
No, that's correct. To add a point to what you guys were saying, my biggest critique of the folks who are advocating for the abolition to abolish the Latin Mass and to the Roman Rite, the right expression is the Novus Ordo. I see it more like this, and I'll give you guys an analogy. I personally go to the TLM every single Sunday. I have to drive an hour to go to a TLM every single Sunday. And what's funny is when you have a product, I'm going to say product, just in this case, for arts argument, but you have a product that is more available, like the Novus Ordo. I got to drive 4 hours to go to what's called the Reverend Novus Ordo. Shout out to the Fathers of Mercy. I got to drive almost 4 hours to go to Reverend Novus Ordo or 1 hour to go to TLM, which I think a TLM is better than a Reverend Novus Ordo, in my personal opinion. And I'll always pick the TLM 10 out of 10. But I will say this about the folks who want the TLM gone. What are you doing to make the Novus Ordo better, other than just griping about the so-called mad trads? They're mad for a single reason. And the reason is this. Imagine your ex-boyfriend was very abusive and you find somebody that's better. You find somebody that treats you better. And the ex-boyfriend says, come back to me, forget your new boyfriend. And then your response is, well, are you going to change? Are you going to treat me better? No. Well, I'm going to stay with this boy. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to destroy your new boyfriend and I'm going to get rid of him and from the face of the earth. Well, are you going to change? Like, if I come back to you, are you going to treat me better? No. That's what the Novus Ordo folks are really saying. They're saying is, we're not going to change the clown masses and the abusive and the whims of the priest. Whatever he wants to do it, whatever if he feels like name tag Sunday, we're going to do name tag Sunday. Movie Sunday during the homily, we'll do movie Sunday. All of these things have to end if you want to present. If you want to get rid of the TLM, and which I don't think you should, to be honest with you, I think it will stand the test of time. And I think later on, 100 years from now, it'll still be here. If you want to get rid of the TLM, then give us something better that we could attend, that we could feel like it is a reverence and that we're standing in awe. Because other than that, all you're doing is just telling us to come back to an abusive relationship without changing. So that's what I got to say about that. So
I don't think anybody here on this panel would ever rightfully choose the NO Mass over the Novus. I drive 45. I go to Baylor. I go to a Baptist university that has a Latin Mass on campus, which is 45 minutes away.
Maytag night. What's Maytag?
Right?
Name tag Sunday. I've been to that before. No, you guys are great. I'm talking about the leftist Catholics who are complaining. The traditional Latin Mass is causing division. Is causing all of this. Listen, Francis already said, if you're going to take his word at face value, he already said in his document, the reason he's doing this is because he wants one expression of the Roman rite, which I don't think is right. Yeah. Because in the early patristic times, you had different expressions of the Roman. You had the Ambrosian rite, you had the Greek rite, you had all these different rites. How about they just got scared because the TLM was getting so popular that in 100 years or 50 years, it was going to overtake the Novus Ordo. So they decided to.
I still think it will. It will. Because I mean, the people that are pushing it, which again, everyone that's upset just need to chill out, is they're going to die. They're old. Those guys are not. They're not going to survive the rest of this decade. One, and then what happens afterwards? We just take over. So you just suck it up in a sense, and just wear out the storm. Hey, wasn't that a gospel reading last week? The Christ asleep in the boat, rocky waters, things like. Where are ye, little faith? Where are we at on that? That's those. One Byzantine priest has a sermon on that. Is after we hear the gospel, we should just be like, hey, yeah, cool. God, thanks be to God. We should be crying because we're not there yet. And those are warning shots to us. We need to be proof. That's not just tickling our ears, no matter what language it is in. We need to live what those are. And in full disclosure, I go to a better diocese than most people. The diocese here, there's 5 unicorn masses I know of within 20 minutes of me right now, where there are no ladies in the beyond the altar realm, where you are the extreme person if you're standing, much less putting your hand out. That's not happening at most of these ones I know of here. They're young priests. They're moving it in. They got chant. They got the whole 9 yards. And you know what? The diocese here, they want to actually put the TLM in every parish. And the funny thing is, the trads here are still mad. Now, tell me, somebody explain to me how that makes any sense. The diocese wants to put the TLM in every parish, and our boys are still mad. That's a sign that we need to get. What is our goal? What are we supposed to do? Where's our joy? That right there should make people go, you know what? I'm moving to that diocese. No, our guys complain.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's well said, Steve. And I think we just need to continue to thank God for every opportunity. For me, when it struggles, it's another opportunity for the suffering souls in purgatory to get some prayers and some offerings.
That's
and
right.
and whatever else we can do. The Catholic Church has given us so many tools, and I only because I cover politicians, tools in the toolbox, which is such a statement I hate. But if you think about it, we have that. Whether it's the Holy Face devotion, the St. Joseph's Combat Chaplet, besides the Rosary, the Purgatorian Manual, we have all these things to help us deal with the everyday stresses of life. And you know what's not on there? Twitter. There is no Twitter novena that you can do to help help out your soul or the suffering souls or your parents or bring people back to the mass. None of that's there, and so it is what
There's
it is.
your Exodus 90. No social media.
Yeah.
Twitter 90, is that what you're?
Twitter 90.
Let me ask you guys a question, and be honest. Steve, you brought up a good point, if you don't mind. If the unicorn masses were the standard right after 1968, 1969, if those were the standard, how many of us would be going to TLM right now?
No.
Zero. Because I think, in my personal opinion, it was the abuses of the Novus Ordo that drove a lot of us to the TLM. So if the unicorn masses were the standard, most of us we weren't alive at that time. We didn't even know. We didn't know better. So I think it was the fact that the Novus Ordo was what drove me mostly to the TLM, because I said, wow, this is great versus what's going on here. But I wouldn't even know better. So that should be the standard. The Novus Ordo, if you want Novus Ordo, it should be the standard should be the unicorn masses, not unicorn.
I agree. I agree. They took the opportunity and they overplayed their hand, if you will. And they just went like a college girl, like a freshman college girl with a credit card. They just blew their shot as soon as they got it.
That's what they all do. The COVID guys did that. The jab guys did that. They all do that.
Evil's pride. They cannot not do that, if that makes sense. They have no choice but to go as, for lack of a better term, balls to the walls as they can. So. All right. Good talk, gentlemen. Let's get your saints and cry rooms ready. And we'll start with you, Fwaz. If you're ready, it is time for the cry room.
Oh man, cry room. Man, who do we got this week? I'm gonna put Kamala on there. She gave a speech at the funeral, and man, I've never met anybody in my life as a politician where you think Joe Biden needs a teleprompter? This lady needs a teleprompter. She can't formulate a sentence. Like, nothing works in her brain. It's just a whole lot of different things that just come out of nowhere. So I'm going to put Kamala on there I know I picked the easier one, but every time she speaks, man, it's just some funny stuff comes out, memes all over the place. So Kamala's going in.
All right. Do you have a saint, or do you have
I don't
a
have a saint, but I don't have a saint of the week. But can I share something a little more personal?
Yeah, get it.
So we're talking almost going to 2 months right now. We got a little scare with one of my 3-year-old, and asked everybody to pray for him. We had a little scare with him with health, and my family and I, we were trying to find a good groove. As you know, families, for those of you who are married and have kids, it's either fast or feast. That's pretty much what life is about. There are months you fast and there are months you feast. And a lot of times it's hard to find a good groove, a good prayer life when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the suffering that you're embracing. But thanks be to God, and this almost happened by accident, just by God's grace. My wife and I found a really good groove with our family, with everyday prayers. We increased our prayers. During the suffering, we were all getting sick almost on a weekly basis. I had a health scare with my boy. We were just internalizing the stress, and we're just trying to keep strong for the other kids. And what we came out of it was the fact, and now we're starting to come out of the famine, and now we're starting to get into more of the feast in our family life. But the fact that we established this beautiful prayer life and this beautiful family time during the thickness of it, it made the light more clear, and now we have a great groove and a great thing going on. So suffering, when you unite it to the cross, in my personal opinion, and this is something I've seen this last couple of months, when you unite the suffering to the cross, I'm telling you, once you get out of it and you have this routine, there's nothing greater. So right now we're happier than we've ever been before because of that suffering, because we had to go through it, carry our cross. So
Awesome.
I wanted to share that.
That's great. That's awesome, man. Appreciate it. Steve, what do you got?
Saint of the week. I'm going with Mr. Beast. Well, I don't know if you guys heard about. No, probably everybody's there. I just heard about him a couple months ago. My wife told me. He's a North Carolina guy. Apparently, he's got more money than I think the world. Anyway, if people don't know him, he just does this huge YouTube channel. Someone wanted to buy for $2 billion or $1 billion, and he turned it down because it was worth more than that. Anyway, he gave people like 1,000 people sight, not miracle wise. He paid for their cataract surgery. And the cry room of the week are the same people that are upset.
Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast, one of the biggest YouTube creators in the world, recently made a video where he helped cure 1,000 blind people by partnering with C International to provide manual small incision cataract surgery. In the video, a surgeon stated that half of the 200 million blind people in the world could be cured with a simple 10-minute surgery.
Many of Mr. Beast's critics claim that this charitable act, as well as many of his others, are only for clout and profit. Many have mocked Mr. Beast for this video, but his defenders have appeared in large numbers to praise the video and Mr. Beast's charity. Mr. Beast's channel is currently the 4th most subscribed to channel on the platform.
I did not know who this person was until yesterday. I swear I had never heard of him before. But apparently my nephews are big fans and love his videos. And I love his little pop-up restaurant stuff he does.
He does a burger joints or something like that. I can't find him. But yeah, I don't know who would go after this guy for paying for surgeries. I don't care how much money you get from YouTube or whatever sponsorship. They're like always using sponsorship money. Who cares? You don't see Gates doing that. You don't see anybody with money like that doing that. This guy gives away cars, money, all kinds of. The guy gave a guy the cataract surgery and a $50,000 check to go to college.
He also bought one guy a Tesla.
Yeah, gave him a Tesla or something on top of it. Dude, for someone like that, mad props to that guy for doing stuff like. Wish we had more guys doing that, but yeah, for somebody to criticize him for it, though, that's definitely a cry. That might be winner for the Cry Room of the Year award.
Oh yeah.
And then that Brianna in this, if you watch that Rising clip, she goes after the whole problem about all these people with cataract problems because this guy's going to Africa and all these nations to do it. He's doing more. And she goes, "This is why you need socialist medicine." What?
I know the solution. Communism.
Yes.
That'll be.
you couldn't. The other guy, Robbie, I think it is. His mouth just dropped. Like, what? Really? But yeah, Mr. Beast is apparently, some dumb videos about how long you can hold a hand on a car and stuff like that. But the winner gets the car. Right.
Where's this again?
Nuts. I don't know how you get that big.
Yeah. Well, we're trying. we might have to do that as well. So my cry room is all you gym girls chasing clout, and honestly, dudes who are at the gym just trying to get their work in. You're taking photos of them, calling them creeps, putting them on TikTok and Instagram for clout. You're going in there, you're dressed in your underwear and the tightest clothes you can. And then when a guy looks your way because he's in between sets, you blow him up on TikTok, calling him a predator and all this other kind of stuff. Time has come. Y'all need to go back to curves. All you girls need to go back to curves. You have your own female gym. Stop going to the dude gym. Stop going to the real gym. Stop photoing or stop filming yourself. We need to get rid of that too. You should be illegal to film yourself in a gym. Oh, I'm looking for squat. Whatever. No, you don't get to. It's called a mirror. Look in it. So y'all can just absolutely go pound sand. All you TikTok thoughts who are trying to chase that gym clout. Yeah, you're in my cry room. My saint of the week is Rob from Avoiding Babylon, because I just launched the Daily Mag Dump, which is a show every morning about firearms and talking about firearms. And Rob, even today, where I had one viewer this morning, you know who that viewer was? That viewer was my man Rob. So Rob, you're my saint of the week, buddy, because you and me, we were ride or die this week. So thank you, buddy, for hanging out with me. And anybody else, check out my channel, Daily Mag Dump, if you're into guns and stuff. So it looks like that is it for the news from the pew this week. I hope you all have a safe week. We'll talk next time. God bless, and Viva Cristo Rey. Yes. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Best rapper alive.
Total Request Live. This is your host, Carson Daly.
How many chickens you got? A lot. How many dishes you got? A lot. How many children you got? A lot. How many bees you got? A lot. How much land do you got? A lot. How many carrots you brought? A lot. How much dough do you got? A lot. How much money you got? Not much. How much weed do you pull? A lot. How many bricks you stack? A lot. How many hoes you got? A lot. How many girls you got? Just one. How many problems you got? A lot. Kind of car do you drive? Suburban. How many miles do they got? A lot. Tell me what's inside your garden? A lot.